Okay.
Are we starting?
I can't hear the deputy majority leader.
She's on mute. There we go. 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 There we go.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Sherry, can you connect her audio with the phone, please, instead of their computer?
Can they hear you, Madam President?
I hope so.
Maybe give Erlen a call. They're going to have to pay me overtime.
I agree.
Hey, Councilman, how are you?
I agree, Councilman.
How you doing, pal?
Hey.
Let me hear them through here.
That's better right there.
That's better.
You can hear better?
Yes.
That's great.
Okay. All right.
So we can put the volume up a little bit more, but you're gonna get an echo.
What is it? So you want me to speak louder?
No, I'm just, can you? I'm concerned that is that gonna pick up the audio?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good? Okay.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Harris,
Present.
Vice Chairman Marducci,
Yeah.
Councilman Correa, absent.
You guys, you still got an echo.
Councilwoman Castillo, absent.
She's on mute.
No, I'm present.
She's present.
Councilman Espinal,
Present.
there are 4 present and 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Well, you have to understand that we're in the days of technology, so of course these things will happen to us. Is there, do we have a city solicitor present with us? Good afternoon, city solicitor. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Could you please tell us the legality of this meeting and why we
Yes.
have it in this form.
Yes, on September 9th, an executive order, specifically Executive Order 2075 was issued by the governor. It extended her previous orders to continue remote public meetings due to the pandemic in order to continue essential business operations as long as the public is granted timely and adequate access to the meeting. So this meeting is sufficient.
Did we lose them?
I believe she's on mute.
She is muted again.
We're here for a public hearing. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, in order to provide testimonies tonight, as you know, this is a public hearing. We're here to hear from the public. And we're looking forward to hearing from the public. In order to provide testimonies tonight from the public, you must have signed up in advance. This was broadcast in the Providence Journal, and we know that the meeting notice have went out. So we are going to allow each speaker 2 minutes. We have quite a bit of people signed up, and we will allow them 2 minutes to present to the body, the committee body. Madam Clerk, would you please read the first item into the...
Madam Chair,
Ms.
I'd just like to have you recognize Councilwoman Anthony's here with us too.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. So noted. And I also see that we have Council President Matos. Thank you, Councilman Narducci.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we have Councilwoman Miller.
Oh, we also have Councilwoman Miller. Okay, if you're not speaking right now, please mute yourself. Madam Clerk, please read the first item into the record.
Resolution opposing the Rhode Island Department of Transportation proposed multi-hub bus system.
Thank you. I have also, in addition, 4 letters that were sent in advance, and I would like to have these records voted into the record. So I would like to start out with the first one, which is from Hannah Wells, and she is in support of the resolution. I would like to get an motion for Exhibit A on this.
Motion made for Exhibit A.
Second.
Second.
Motion have been made by Councilman Narducci, second by Councilman Espinal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I also have another letter. We're gonna name this Exhibit B from Jane Arna. Can I get a motion?
Motion made for Exhibit B. Is that in favor or against?
Second.
It's a long letter, and I would like to move on. Is she in favor? Okay, we do see that she's in favor of it. There's motion been made to, is there a second?
Yes, second.
Motion made by Councilman Narducci, second by Councilman Espinal. All in favor?
Aye.
You opposed? We also have a letter in exhibits. We're gonna name this one Exhibit C, and it's from Emily Bolton, and she opposed the RIPTR. And can I have a motion?
Motion to make Exhibit C, please.
Motion made, second.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Narducci, second by Councilman Espinal. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? We also have a letter which we're gonna put Exhibit D. She's also opposed the multi-hub. Can I have a motion for Exhibit D?
Motion made.
Motion made, second. Can I have a second?
second,
Okay.
Motion been made by, for Exhibit D, Councilman Narducci, second by Councilman Espinal and Councilman Costello. All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it, okay. So from here, we're gonna move on to hearing from the public. So we will start out, the clerks will read the phone numbers and you will identify yourself. Please remember you have 2 minutes. May I have the first person?
All right, go to the next one, 724.
That is Jackson Cantrell.
Okay, so allow him to talk.
Do we have a name?
Jackson Cantrell.
Allowed to talk. Please state your name for the record.
Unmute him.
If they're speaking, we can't hear them. Maybe move on to the next speaker.
Can you unmute yourself?
Madam Chair, we cannot hear anybody speaking.
Hello?
Yes. Will you state your name for the record, please?
I'm confused. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear you. Please, could you state your name?
Okay, my name is David Kolsky. I live at 153 Dean Street, apartment 304. The zip code is 02903. I'm not familiar with all the details.
To speak.
Okay. I'm not familiar with all the details, but I remember that like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 years ago, there was a plan that seemed to be much more friendly to the kinds of things that people in Providence want. It kept some of the centralization of the hub, and it did things like reconnect Burnside Park with the skating rink, and I'm not sure. I think it may have involved undergrounding the buses. I'm not in the Riders Alliance, so or anything like that, so I can't. I only remember from my memory what went on. But it seemed like a good plan. I couldn't agree with 100% of it, but it seemed like a pretty good plan. But then it sort of like mysteriously disappeared, and there's speculation, but nobody really knows what happened there, because RIPD has gone back to this plan of 3 isolated hubs, and I'm opposed to that for the reasons that many other people have, that it would, for one thing, it'll be a problem, especially when it's icy and snowy and cold and windy, for people to go up the road from downtown to the New Union Station by the State House, which is one of the hubs.
Can you?
Sorry?
No, it's almost your 2 minutes is up.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's a basic for many of the reasons that other people have stated. Thanks.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, may I have the next speaker?
6059.
I'm sorry, Deputy Leader, we cannot hear the clerk at all. So if she's trying to call on someone to speak, we
No,
can't
can you
hear
just
that.
give us a minute of patience? We're using phone numbers and they're trying to identify the phone numbers, if you don't mind.
I think I'm on.
Oh, you're on? May I have you?
Yes, I think I've been
identify-
unmuted. Yes, hi, my name is Chris Sarley. Good afternoon, thank you for your time. I'm speaking to ask you to support. I'm speaking to ask you to support this resolution and oppose the project as it's been presented. As many others have and will continue to testify, this proposal will cost many riders, including myself, both time and convenience. However, I also like to talk about an opportunity cost that is at work here. If I were to take the bus, for example, from Councilman Narducci's ward to President Matos's ward, I'd probably have to take the 27 downtown and then transfer to the 72. If I were to then visit Councilman Espinal's ward, I'd have to backtrack downtown and then hop on the R line. Now, given that RIPTA is perpetually underfunded, budget is perpetually underfunded, I don't blame them for this, even though it clearly is a huge convenience for anyone who needs to get around the city of Providence on a regular basis. But given their resources, it's one of the best things they can do. Unfortunately, their transit, as Rhode Island's transit, as I mentioned, is perpetually underfunded. So having this pot of taxpayer-approved money is a somewhat rare occurrence. RIDOT seems intent to spend all of these millions entirely downtown, which will fundamentally do nothing to make these trips that I've mentioned any easier. And they can also make transferring more difficult. Now, a hub and spoke isn't perfect, but it works best when transferring is really easy and it's not something you have to think about. And under this plan, that's just not the case. I urge you to send the message that this money can be used better. For example, the state has a transit master plan coming out soon that will recommend running crosstown service to help people who don't want or need to come through downtown. That plan also suggests building hubs outside of downtown on a neighborhood scale that can increase accessibility of transit in communities across both the city and the state. If one of these were to be built, for example, in Olneyville, RIPTA could use that to improve access in an underserved community while also anchoring new crosstown routes in the future that could bypass downtown altogether, which would benefit a wider number of Providence residents. The city and state obviously are very strapped for cash, so if we're going to spend the very limited funds that we have on capital projects, let's make sure to actually accomplish something for those who rely on transit every day. I urge you to support this solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let the record show that we have Councilman Goncalves and Councilwoman LaFortune present.
So noted.
Thank you. May I have the next speaker, please, Madam Clerk? Will you please, are you ready? Are you muted?
Hi, this is Greg Garrett. I live on 6th Street. I used to walk by Dyer Street every day.
You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I used to walk by Dyer Street every day, and that's a long ways from downtown. I mean, it's a good quarter mile from Kennedy Plaza and City Hall, and that is a long ways to go to transfer for a bus. It is ridiculous. What this plan by the state is essentially a plan to throw poor people out of downtown. It says, let's get rid of the bus station so we can do real estate speculation. Real estate speculation is the worst thing if you want your economy to work. This is an idea that creates greater inequality and more oppression. And therefore, it is a ridiculous plan that is spending $35 million to waste money and make bus service worse. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, may we have the next speaker? Are your mic mute? Are you muted?
Deputy Leader, I am so sorry, but we still can't hear the clerk who the clerk is calling on. So I'm not sure if the person who's ready to speak can
May
hear you.
may I ask who's the next speaker?
Did you allow me to talk, Ange?
Are you muted, the next speaker? Are you muted? Can you unmute yourself?
If not, just
Now?
go to the speaker.
Yes,
Okay, I'm ready.
thank you. May you, please
Mr. Rob,
state
I
your
have
name
2
for the
minutes.
record, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Patricia Rubb. I am the coordinator of Rhode Island Transit Riders.
Can you speak
I'm
up a little,
increasingly-
Patricia, please, for us? Could you speak up?
I'm increasingly concerned that the RIDOT plan is being formulated and implemented by people who do not regularly ride the bus and do not understand or appreciate the rider's perspective and experience. This might be okay if RIDOT were involving bus passengers while formulating their plan, but they have not. RIDOT is not developing this proposal alone. RIDOT answers to the governor, and the governor has made it clear she wants buses out of the plaza. RIDOT is moving as rapidly as possible to achieve this, and the agency is not following the more inclusive but time-consuming process of engaging all stakeholders, including riders, to come up with a solid plan that would accommodate everyone's needs. The governor's goal is simply to rid the plaza of buses as perhaps part of her legacy. To achieve this, RIDOT has come up with a so-called multi-hub plan that leaves Providence without a convenient central hub. As an afterthought, RIDOT claims that this will improve the passenger experience, but a plan that truly improves their experience would start with that as the goal and not end up with it as a rationalization for clearing the buses out. Rhode Island Transit Riders calls on the governor to do the right thing, to halt further implementation of this plan now, and to direct RIDOT and RIPTA to beginning a thorough planning process now that includes all stakeholders, including riders. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the next speaker.
Someone calls Philip Trevette next anyway. Yeah. Philip Trevette, okay, just say your name for the record.
Please say your name for the record. Can you unmute yourself?
Philip Trevette.
Yep, sorry, I didn't hear my name called, and I think so.
Can you please state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm still getting set up because my name wasn't called, so I hope you'll forgive me 30 seconds. Yes, my name is Philip Trevette, and thank you for your time on this. I first want to take 1 second just to note that I think and hope that whenever there is a vote, the 2 council members who made an effort to shut down discussion last time recused themselves. They didn't represent and sort of actively prevented other council members from contributing. If they're not invested in hearing from fellow council members, much less constituents, they shouldn't be part of any vote. Regarding RIDOT overall, I think a lot of people are more versed in all the issues than me, so I want to focus on process and specifically what is undemocratic about it and dishonest. Throughout this process, RIDOT and representatives have lied repeatedly. They've stated this plan is what voters supported in 2014, even though the very people who advocated for this in 2014 have stated that it is not that. Even today, they showed new analysis to the RIPTA board about transfers, which was grossly misleading and neglected major parts of the data in representing that information. So I think any plan that is that dishonest and that undemocratic in how it's using funds voted on by citizens is hugely problematic. I also want to bring up how much this concerns me as we face a budget crisis where bond voting will be critical in the upcoming either general election or special election. If citizens don't trust our state to use money that is dependent on citizen votes, how can we vote on that? How can we support a broad general budget if we don't trust our state to use that money appropriately? So I think on top of it, what everyone is going to say about RIPTA, this connects to the broader state budget. And
sir, your time is up.
That budget crisis. So thank you for the time, and I'm for the resolution that opposes this multi-hub plan.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Next speaker is Cassie Farringer.
Cassie Farringer.
Hi.
Can you repeat your name for the record, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Cassie Farringer. I'm a 20-year resident of Providence. I'm hearing a bad echo. Okay, there it's gone. I'm a 20-year resident of Providence. I work locally in urban forestry and street tree planting advocacy. And I think, as hopefully most of you are aware, humans are facing a truly terrifying climate emergency right now, and it is beyond our imperative to do everything we possibly can to decarbonize our economy and shift away from fossil fuel and towards a just climate transition. And creating robust and usable public transit systems is one no-brainer piece of that. And so I think it just seems like common sense that we should be doing every possible thing we can to make this system that is sadly inconvenient to use currently, the bus system, that we should be making it as convenient as possible. Every dollar that we spend should be going towards making riders, particularly our most vulnerable riders and the heaviest users of the bus system, to make it easier on them. And this is just so clearly not doing that. And I know this might seem abstract and theoretical to maybe the folks who've been trying to rush and push this through. It's not to people. I know people who spend almost 2 hours commuting to Newport on the bus for a low wage job. Every 10 minutes extra that they're spending, not with their families, not cooking dinner, not living their lives, is an injustice. And I just really urge all of us to think about that and keep that in our focus as we move forward. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony.
Next speaker is Jane Arnold.
Jane Arnold, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Yes, this is Jane speaking. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, could you repeat your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Jane Arnold. I live in Oak Hill, Pawtucket, and since you have my letter, I will keep this very brief. I have 3 points. The last meeting when we were not allowed to speak, I believe it was Madam Chairwoman, who was honest and gracious enough to admit that she does not ride the bus and she has not talked to her constituents. So anybody involved in this decision should be riding the buses, even if they have to take a week off and just ride buses and find out what they're doing. Second, ask the riders and make it easy for them. Make it easy for the woman who's carrying 8 bags of groceries. And I said to her, do you want some help? And she said, no, I have to do this all the time. So you hand her a survey and say, next time you get on the bus, drop it in the box. Make it easy to ask the riders. And third, right now, could you do something about Kennedy Plaza to keep it clean? Okay, so you hire people to clean Kennedy Plaza. You hire people to clean and disinfect the bathrooms so the riders can use it. And if you could please, those electronic signs telling you when the bus is coming could be so wonderful if they were accurate. And if the iPhone can do it, I don't understand why RIPTA can't do it. And it would be so much easier, and I strongly, strongly oppose this plan. Thank you for hearing me. I'm sure you're tired of my voice.
Thank you for your testimony.
Next speaker is Mal Sakram.
Mel Sakram, could you please unmute yourself?
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please repeat your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Mal Skoran. I live in Providence. But today I'm speaking on behalf of Green Energy Consumers Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization based in Providence. We believe that the transition to a safe climate demands more cost-effective ways to access clean energy choices, and therefore ask the City Council to support the resolution proposed today. A reliable, easy-to-use transportation system is essential to reduce pollution and curb climate change. Nearly 40% of climate warming emissions in Rhode Island come from transportation. We cannot hope to address the climate crisis by making the bus more difficult to use. It's clear that RIPTA riders find the proposed multi-hub plan confusing and cumbersome, and those changes are unlikely to attract new riders or improve existing service. This would be a disaster for the climate, but this is not just a climate issue. It's also an equity issue because the people most affected by the multi-hub plan will be low-income people and people of color in Providence. According to the Rhode Island Transit Master Plan, which is soon to be released in its final draft, 80% of RIPTA riders do not have access to a vehicle, and almost 40% have a household income of less than $10,000 a year. Half of these riders live in Providence, and they're using the bus to get to work, to get to school, to go grocery shopping, and to access healthcare. RIPTA buses are an essential service for the most disadvantaged among us, and there are many investments that could be made to improve reliability, extend service hours, and encourage bus ridership that enforce the principles established by the city's climate justice plan and to help the state meet its climate goals. The multi-hub proposal is not one of them, and so on behalf of Green Energy Consumers Alliance, I ask the City Council to support the proposed resolution against the hub. Thank you.
Thank you. Exactly 2 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Barry Schiller.
Barry Schiller. Please unmute yourself. Could you please unmute yourself?
Hello?
Hello, Bobby?
Oh, yes.
Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Bobby Houlihan. I sent a letter to the Journal and I'll read part of it. The Rhode Island Department of Transportation plan will send thousands of passengers, elderly.
2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 2 minutes.
Elderly, disabled, poor, student, white, minority, 40% of minorities use the buses, downtown employers or commuters from a brilliantly conceived central location to 4 locations around Providence. I believe this is a racial justice issue because of some people. I think the DOT plan will help Paolino remove people who might disrupt the look of Kennedy Plaza for the occasional celebratory event and the occasional tourist. How will this plan serve the needs of thousands depending on easiest point-to-point transit?
Are you done?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. May I have the next speaker?
Is it Barry Schiller? Barry Schiller?
Is it Barry Schiller, the next speaker?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you please state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Barry Schiller. I'm a lifelong transit rider, and I was actually on the board of directors of RIPTA for 5 years in the 1990s. I support this resolution. I would like to defend Kennedy Plaza as a logical center for a central hub. That's where people want to go. It's near the post office, banks, coffee shops, City Hall, URI, Providence Place, Burnside Park, the skating rink. We don't want to go to Dyer Street, which is at the fringe where there's no services, a scary neighborhood after dark. I know that some downtown businesses think that the Kennedy Plaza bus hub hurts their property values, but the solution to that is to make a first-class transit system and first-class transit hub in Kennedy Plaza. We have some bond money to help do that. And so I hope that we can all work together, stakeholders, including the business community, riders, community groups, environmentalists, to work on ways of improving Kennedy Plaza with regard to security, with regard to lighting, with regard to improving the building, signage, traffic flow, signals, public art. Let's make Kennedy Plaza better and make that keep that as the heart of the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Madam Clerk, may I have the next speaker?
Next speaker is Charles Feldman.
Hi, I'm Charles Feldman. You can hear me?
Yes, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, I agree with everything that's been said so far, and I'd like to emphasize that in the past, RIPTA has sent survey takers to Kennedy Plaza to find out people's opinions on issues regarding the buses. And one person did mention this briefly, but I think that if we had survey takers handing out surveys at Kennedy Plaza where people are and where people could voice their opinions, that would be the way to get people's opinions. I am with the Oasis Wellness and Recovery Center in Rhode Island, which serves low-income people predominantly with mental health issues. In order to recover, to get to recovery meetings, doctors, grocery stores, people need easy transportation. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. May I have the next person?
Zan Berry. Next person to speak is Zan Berry.
Hello.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Zan Berry. I stand in solidarity with those who've raised concerns about this multi-hub plan. And while I'm not a RIPTA writer, I am a Providence public school teacher and in the Pawtucket schools. And I am particularly concerned about students who rely on the bus for their commute to classes. This multi-hub plan would pose an added barrier, especially to lower income students, students of color, homeless students, and students with disabilities. Many of these students are already vulnerable to discriminatory policing from Providence police and school resource officers. And by decentralizing this KP hub, we are putting them at greater risk of unfair punishment at school or for being followed by police during the longer downtown transfers. Additionally, as an arts teacher, I strongly believe in equal access for students to extracurricular programs in which students can learn to express themselves and grow as creative human beings. By making these before and after school commutes more complicated and arduous, we would potentially deprive students of these opportunities to connect with these supportive after school programs. Finally, high school students who help support their families and themselves with after school jobs, having added commute time would potentially put these students at a chance of financial hardship. And so I would just urge you to, I'm supporting the resolution to take this plan back to the drawing board with actual writer input. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Next.
Hi, I'm Wendy Thomas. I've been a writer for 20 or 30 years. Been through a couple of the remodels at Kennedy Plaza and stuff, and worked with homeless and seniors and disabled people for quite a few years. During those rehabs, every time I've had to help other people, disabled seniors, to find where they're going. They get very confused on things like that. I don't think that this is going to be a very good idea. And also, our time is worth something. For us to have to take even longer to get from one place to the next, it is not going to help at all. Thank you.
Thank you for testifying. May I have the next speaker?
Next speaker is Nina Wolf-Lando.
Nina
Wolf-Lando was the next speaker.
Nina, unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Wolf-Landau. I am a Providence resident. Thank you for allowing folks to speak. I was one of 45 some odd people here a few weeks ago who was waiting during my evening after work to speak and was unfortunately not allowed that opportunity. And I want to also thank Councilwoman LaFortune because the proposed date fell on Yom Kippur, which is a holiday I observed, and I was able to communicate to her via Twitter and ask her to raise the point that it was a really important holiday. So I want to thank her for being so responsive. So I just want to hit on a few points. First, I agree with everything that has just been said. I strongly think that the council should support this resolution and oppose this horrible plan. It's not rocket science that a plan that is deeply affecting our transit system should not be ending with some lackluster public comment, but rather should be starting with engagement with riders, like many people have just said. I also want to point out, like others have also said, that this is a horrendous use of public bond money that was approved by voters to improve our transit system. Any rider and any transit expert can tell you that the way you improve a transit system and get more people, more places more effectively is to increase your routes, to increase the frequency, and to increase people's ease of access. And this does none of those things. And we also know that this is also a plan for wealthy property developers downtown to get people they don't want to see out of sight, which, let's call it what it is. It's racist and it's classist and it's outrageous. I also want to just point out that the governor has put forward different plans and commitments around climate, and this undermines a lot of those commitments. We know that transportation is the leading contributor to Rhode Island's greenhouse gas emissions. So both to get people to work and families and do their daily things they have to do, and also because this is a climate crisis that's bearing down on Rhode Island's 400 line, we need to do better than this, and this is a terrible plan. So I support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Next speaker is John Flaherty.
John Flaherty, please unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much. My name is John Flaherty. I'm deputy director of GrowSmart Rhode Island, a nonprofit based on Westminster Street in downtown. I've been an 8-year daily rider of RIPTA, and I also have some experience with transportation planning and policy. I serve as the vice chair of the state's Transportation Advisory Committee. And I am here this evening to urge you to support passage of this resolution. I think it's a flawed plan. This is the third plan that RIDOT has rolled out in 4 years. This is a plan that has been developed by people who do not use transit, frankly. And we're concerned because of the added confusion that this presents to people who use transit, whether they're existing riders or people who we hope will take transit when the transit master plan begins to get implemented. And we think it's going to extend not only the added confusion, but it's going to take people longer to get where they're going. We just think it's completely unnecessary. I want to point out that one of the first speakers mentioned a plan that had been developed 2-3 years ago. And that was a plan put forward by the city of Providence. And I want to commend the city because that was a result of an enormous amount of public engagement where all stakeholders had a seat at the table. And from that yielded a vision for how to do two things: improve Kennedy Plaza and improve the transit system. And yes, it is a mystery as to why that plan did not go forward. So I urge you to support this resolution. You have an opportunity to have the city be on the right side of history. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next speaker is Lisa Birkin.
Ms. Birkin, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, repeat your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Great. My name is Liza Birkin. I want to thank you for hearing our voices tonight. Our voices have been systematically shut out of this process, so thank you. While I live in Providence now, I used to live in Newport without a car. And I witnessed the capital improvement project to the bus hub there after Hurricane Sandy, which is now a much more resilient and inviting bus hub where you can go to the bathroom, wait under shelter if it's raining or snowing, and where the green infrastructure softens the blow of storm surges. But if I wanted to go visit my mom in Narragansett on the weekend, I would have to hitchhike over the bridge with my bike to the Saunderstown Park and Ride, which is just a parking lot with no bathroom, water, shelter. The vast majority of the bus infrastructure in Rhode Island looks like Saunderstown, not Newport or even what's in Kennedy Plaza today. And this is what the voters had in mind when the state approved the transit bond in 2014 to improve bus access and capital improvements for bus hubs throughout the state. How many times do we have to say that? That is the language of the bond. These funds were not intended to be solely spent in downtown Providence. This is a misuse of public funding. But if they are to be spent in downtown Providence, it's completely unacceptable to be doing construction for a planned 2 years in the jewelry district while the main part of Kennedy Plaza is shut down. We know that construction projects last a lot longer than planned. And the way this is structured, we know that people who ride the bus will be without basic dignities like bathrooms and shelters for at least 2 years, as they have been since the beginning of COVID-19. Folks who have been begging the city and RIPTA to change this, to open the bathrooms with zero action. It's inhumane and it's backwards. The RIDOT needs to be asking riders what they need, not telling them they're splitting up the central bus hub and doing construction for 3 years around the city. Everything about this process has been backwards. We still don't know which specific bus routes are planned to go to which hub, although RIDOT talks about things as if they already know. And how could public outreach possibly be completed when that routing information is not yet public?
Your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, the city council doesn't have decision-making power, but you can support and amplify the community's message. So please bring this resolution back to the full council and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Next speaker is Kate Shapiro.
Kate Shapiro, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
State your name for the record and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you to all who are in attendance and all of the council people. In better time, my name is Kate Shapiro. I'm a Providence resident and a RIPTA rider. It means I don't have to pay for gas or parking. It also means that instead of the exhaust of my car and the bus on the road, there's just the exhaust of the bus. A good public transit system means less traffic, which means cleaner air, which means less asthma and cancer, as well as less climate change. I choose to ride the bus, but many people have to ride the bus. It's their only way to get to work, medical appointments, school, court, and even their family's house because they don't have cars and can't drive. As others have said, often these are people on low or fixed incomes, elderly people, disabled people, teenagers, and because of racism in schooling and hiring, people of color. A more confusing and harder to use bus system like the multi-hub proposal will mean that people lose jobs, miss medically or legally necessary appointments, miss school, and have a harder time seeing their families. Also, as others have said, a more confusing bus system means fewer riders. Fewer riders means less revenue for RIPTA. Less revenue means a more difficult case for keeping it going at its current volume and capacity, or at all. And that means that bus lines or hours of service could end up on the state budget's chopping block, thus permanently cutting many people off from their work, school, appointments, and family, not to mention ending employment for drivers and others. I know you know all of this. I know that many of you on the council have constituents who depend on RIPTA to get where they need to go, who will have an easier time if RIPTA is easier to use, and in some cases would be actively prevented from using RIPTA by a drastically changed and dispersed system. I hope that those are the people you will think of and speak for when you decide to vote for this resolution against the multi-hub proposal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is John St. Man.
John St. Man.
John St. Man.
Man.
Hi, this is Jonesy. I live in Ward 9.
Okay. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm here to encourage you to vote yes to oppose RIDOT's multi-hub proposal. I'd like to speak on the ways that RIDOT has ignored voters Providence residents, bus riders, and the Providence City Council throughout the rollout of this plan. First, let's remember that the $35 million for this project came from a 2014 bond that Rhode Island voters approved to fund enhancements and renovations to mass transit infrastructure throughout the state. In Providence, 77% of voters supported this bond. RIDOT's multi-hub plan doesn't do what this bond says. Dismantling the KP bus hub and replacing it with several smaller hubs is not an enhancement, and it's not a renovation, and it's not throughout the state. It's a misuse of funds, and it betrays our trust. It betrays the trust of voters around Rhode Island. RIDOT has not been forthcoming about why they're focusing on Kennedy Plaza rather than statewide infrastructure. And the plan certainly didn't come from bus riders or from RIPTA. RIDOT also doesn't seem to care about the input of the Providence City Council. I attended this committee's meeting on September 9th, and there was a Mr. Stephen Devine from RIDOT who answered questions from the committee members. And I was really struck by the misleading nature of many of his statements to this committee. He claimed that RIDOT had offered many opportunities for public engagement, when in truth, the public has only been able to offer comment at 2 recent RIPTA board meetings where RIDOT has been presenting plans that look complete. Then a council member asked Mr. Devine if RIDOT would gather public input in the future. He said, yes, there would be plenty of future engagement. But then when pressed by a council member, he admitted that RIDOT was planning to release an RFP in just a couple weeks, a timeline which clearly leaves no time for public engagement. And I was just frankly shocked at the dishonesty that he displayed to you committee members. RIDOT is not directly accountable to voters or to bus riders, but they do answer to Governor Raimondo. And committee members, Governor Raimondo needs to hear from you that it is not acceptable for RIDOT to ignore the needs of Providence residents and bus riders. I urge you to vote yes on the resolution, not only to oppose this particular multi-hub plan, but to send a message to RIDOT and Governor Raimondo that they must respect and consult with you and your constituents before making drastic changes to our public services. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sharon Steele.
Sharon Steele, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Please state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Sharon Steele, President of the Jewelry District Association. I would like to start by echoing what Jonesy just said, and that is that Stephen Devine in the last meeting literally provided you with more untruths than he did truths. Let me tell you that today there was a RIPTA board meeting. At the RIPTA board meeting, John Flaherty and Patricia Raub and myself all spoke. And in fact, there are now literally more changes to the transit hub that was presented on July 22nd. So to continue with their lack of process, they have now literally merged their lack of process with arrogance and incompetence. So we are now in a position where we literally don't know which proposal they are going to pursue. It seems that they will throw it all against the wall and see what sticks. So I can say to you unequivocally that the only option that the council really has, if you are to represent your constituents who are transit riders, and they are the people who need to be at the center of this discussion, not other people. It is the riders who have been afforded little to no respect. So with that, I strongly urge you to literally support the proposal and defeat this transit hub proposal. And as everyone has said, this message needs to go straight to the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Next speaker is Jesse Morrow.
Jesse Morrow, please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me? Could you state your name for the record? And you have 2 minutes. Do we still have you with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Please state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Madam Chair, he's got a bad echo.
That's his echo in the back. It's not coming from us, Councilman Nantucci.
No, I understand that, but if we can't hear him, we can't hear him.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better.
That's better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Okay, my name is Jesse Morrow. I'm a resident of Providence. I also have a degree in civil and environmental engineering. And I would ask the city council and the committee to pass this resolution in opposition of the multi-hub bus plan. I believe the major concern is that this plan is moving too fast without enough community support and without enough stakeholder engagement. It does not seem like this plan is going to positively and constructively benefit the transit riders and the bus riders that it should be targeted towards. Stakeholders have felt that their opinions have been ignored or dismissed throughout this process. And at the same time as changes are being made to the final proposition, there have been committee meetings where public comment was supposed to be held, but no comments were heard. And the RIPTA and RIDOT is moving forward with a scope of work for design services in the next few weeks with plans to start construction in 2021. So all of this is happening much too fast without proper community engagement. We need to hear about the ideas coming from transit riders, from RIPTA employees and bus drivers. I also want to say that I think a lot of the plans and especially numbers that RIPTA and RIDOT have presented in terms of the benefits of this plan to ridership is misleading and incomplete. I think we need to really ask questions about whether this plan will improve the mean commuting time for riders, if we have appropriate measures for accessibility for ADA riders who need to get from one hub across downtown to the next, and about ease of use for increased ridership if we have visitors from out of town that want to use the bus. In total, I think that this plan needs to be reevaluated.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
The next speaker is Randall Rose.
Randall Rose, unmute yourself, please.
I said loudly, I'm here, can you hear me? There seems to be a few seconds.
I can hear you now. Could you please repeat your name for the record? And you have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night, Madam Chair. This is Randall Rose. Yeah, there's a 5-second delay before anybody can speak. No one can unmute themselves. We don't have that ability. But we are being muted as riders and residents. We are being muted. This muting was not your fault, but we are being silenced by RIDOT and their process. They are not listening to us. Everyone is against this, and I won't go into debunking their false statements, which I would have loved to do at the last meeting. I have an open offer to any council member. I would be glad to speak with you and tell you why RIDOT's facts are wrong, why they are claiming buses will go closer to the train station. Most buses go further from the train station under their plan. Most buses are moved further from most places people want to go. It makes trips longer, less convenient. It makes transit worse, as riders recognize. Walk through Kennedy Plaza and talk to people. You'll hear from them. Some of them are shocked this is going to happen. As awareness is growing among riders, they're getting more and more outraged as they realize this is really in the works. This plan will not stand. We are going to do everything we can to stop this unjust plan. It's wrong on the facts. I wish I could debate the person from RIDOT, but the person from RIDOT refuses to talk with us, even privately, refuses to talk with riders. He's not, they're not engaging with us. And we know it answers to Raymundo. Please, we got to get Raymundo to stop this plan. We will get her to stop this plan. We ask you to be on our side, and I'm grateful to all the riders and other people who spoke out today. I'll be grateful to all the council members who will support us in this. This is not something to stay neutral about. It is unjust. It is spending taxpayer money that was supposed to be used to improve transit on making transit worse, ruining a lot of people's experience, and a lot of people are going to curse this plan if it happens, but it will not happen.
Thank you for your testimony. Your 2 minutes are up. That's it. Hearing no more testimonies, the public hearing is now over.
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Narducci, second by who?
Second.
Second by Councilman Castillo.
Madam Chair, can I speak on this matter?
The public hearing is adjourned.
This is Councilman Gonzalez.
Go ahead, Councilman.
All right, so Madam Chair, I want to thank you for holding this meeting tonight, and members of the council, as your fellow council colleague and also the councilman for Ward 1, which encompasses Kennedy Plaza and downtown Providence. I hope we have been listening to our constituents closely, because the consensus of our constituents is loud and clear. And with that being said, I urge all the members of the committee to stand with our constituents to bring this resolution that we propose back to the floor so that we can vote on this as a council. And so I think that vote should be made tonight. And the fact that this even had to go to committee is incredibly unfortunate. And I think we're all in agreement that we want to see an improved Kennedy Plaza and downtown. And as you all know, transportation planning decisions often have significant equity impacts on the people that we serve, including the most vulnerable amongst us. And I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. A $35 million transportation bond approved by taxpayers in 2014, Madam Chair, it requires transparency in data and public input. And we know that RIDOT has not done that, and they've abdicated their responsibilities, and we would abdicate our responsibilities as council people if we don't vote on this matter. So I urge us to hold RIDOT accountable for their process and their lack of transparency with riders, and make it clear that RIDOT has looked down on riders this entire time. And we need them, quite frankly, to get on the bus, because nothing about the riders should be done without the riders. And this is an equity issue. This is a climate issue. It impacts low-income communities. It impacts seniors and persons with disabilities, our most vulnerable riders. And splitting up Kennedy Plaza is going to be a big inconvenience to our everyday RIPTA riders. Riders don't want additional transfers. They don't want to see this process go forward. And this process felt initiated without the input of transit users. And with all due respect, and if anything, this process should enhance the rider's experience, not make it worse. So let's listen to the voices of our constituents tonight, and let's elevate the voices of our constituents. And Madam Chair, let's just pass this resolution.
Councilman, as you may know, this is a public hearing. There is no action for a vote on the floor tonight. With that being said, we will be scheduling a meeting with the clerk's office next week. Thank you for your testimony, and I have a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Motion was made, Madam Chair.
Say that again.
I made the motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Narducci. A motion to adjourn, second by Councilwoman Castillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, and thank the committee members for being here tonight and supporting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next week.